Good day, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm John. This is uh, passages in Pranayama, and don't mind my hair. All right, it's a disaster. I was fortunate enough to get off of work early the other day, yesterday, and get down to the shore. And when swimming, it was late, so this is what I end up with. So don't mind the hair. Don't let it be a distraction. And this is a great segue because we're going to be talking a little bit about distractions. Of course, we're reviewing the Samkhya Karika, the wonderful book by the sage Kapila. It's about 2,500 years old, pushing even 3,000 years old. It's a wonderful philosophy that deals largely with, it's like a lot about science and how the our biology, as well as like our mental state kind of fits within that material world. Okay, so we are on Karika number 7. And let's jump right to it. On account of excessive distance, proximity, injury to senses, inattention, minuteness, obstruction, suppression, and mixture with what is similar, even the existent objects are not perceived. All right, so as I mentioned, this philosophy deals, there's a very scientific approach to it. This section, the last, I guess, including this, the last 3, are largely about gaining knowledge and how we gain knowledge. Now we're dealing with our own senses in this one and observing the world around us. And as we observe the world around us, there is going to be certain things that get in the way of us attaining the knowledge from that which we're attempting to observe. You know, these sutra early on in the Samkhya Karika remind me a bit of the Yoga Sutra, in that sometimes the obvious is stated. And it's kind of odd that the obvious is that you're going to be like, oh, of course, I know that. But sometimes you need to hear the obvious so that, well, you're hopefully well prepared to deal with these potential obstructions in gaining knowledge in the future. Also, it's kind of nice to know, it's humbling, and this, of course, is a very important part of our development, not just in terms of gaining knowledge, but in our spiritual pursuits as well, is to know where our shortcomings lie. And this one describes it perfectly. So we have, in this case, we're not able to observe everything in our immediate world because of these things. So, for instance, on account of proximity, all right, let's begin with excessive distance. There you go. That's the first one. Excessive distance. Obviously, if we cannot observe something if it is in another country, how are we to know how another culture operates if we've never visited it before? Right? If we've never encountered the people of a certain nation or region, and therefore, what do we really know about it? Sure, maybe we've read about it for sure, but we don't. Much like the practice of yoga, we can do all the reading of philosophy that we want, but it's not until we put it to practice that we truly know what's going on. So now that the pandemic is finally subsiding, right, get out there and visit. There's a big old thumbs up from my producer. That's my producer, Lorraine. Okay. So we go to proximity. So maybe when things are a little bit too close, right? And Gaudapadacharya brings up this, well, when things are too close, we see ourselves, right? I can see my own hand, but I can't really see the liquid, right? Which is, of course, the water that is contained within my hand. So something that is seemingly kind of solid, right, actually contains a lot of liquid. All right, so the mind is kind of fooled in that way. All right, on account of injury to the senses. This I've spoken about numerous times the past few weeks. And here, Kapila is talking directly about certain deficiencies, right? And here, there's a certain amount of blindness or deafness. Obviously, we're not going to be able to observe the physical world around us with this high level of clarity. But don't mind that, actually. As I've said in the past few weeks, and something that I really like to reiterate here, is that our senses are limited. Full stop. Right? And because we're so familiar with the way that our senses operate, we can be fooled once again into believing that that how we are observing our world through the sense organs, we believe that they're true, right, accurate, and absolute, when in fact they're not. So I've brought up things like distance and color, things of that nature. And we brought up hearing, I think, as well, right? So a dog hears something like close to 100 times better than we do, right? And why we cannot hear a dog whistle, but dogs can, right? The whistle's being blown. It is beyond a frequency that our instrument is capable of deciphering. Now, let's get into some of the more important stuff here. On account of inattention, right? So inattention. I'm going to get to the Yoga Sutra, third chapter, in a few minutes. I think I'll come back to this, but inattention, right? So this is like one of the primary things. This is like one of the primary powers, if you will, that arises through the practice of yoga. Our ability to observe clearly and with great focus and attention. And we'll come to find out. Ekagrata, the one point, right? One pointedness. But I'll come back to that. On account of minuteness. On account of minuteness. So what's wonderful about, obviously Kapila, like 2,500, 3,000 years ago, didn't have the ability to use telescopes or microscopes, and didn't have the ability to observe the things that we're able to observe today. So now we've created tools to help us better understand the minuteness of things. So through a microscope, we can view, right, the cells of a thing. We can through those large hadron colliders, right? Those hadron colliders, we can observe the movement of tiny little atoms and quarks and what have you. Okay. On account of obstruction, this is pretty obvious, right? When something is in our way and we're attempting to see it, we can't really see it. Or if something is in our way, we're attempting to hear it. The sound may become muffled or distorted. On account of suppression. All right, so a suppression meaning that it's not like obstruction. It's more like, trying to view planets during daylight, right? So trying to view, right, the planets are, moving around, oftentimes visible. Visible if you have the right instrument, of course. But the sun is so overwhelming, we cannot see, right, stars or planets and so on. All right, so the light then becomes a suppressive factor in our ability to observe. Okay, on account of mixture with what is similar. So this is also an important one that maybe we should take a bit of a dive into. Suppression and mixture with what is similar. And in this case, maybe some of you are familiar, right? The mind works in such a way that it it tries to create shortcuts, right? It attempts to create shortcuts so that when we see something similar to something that we've observed in the past, it will immediately try to, well, categorize, right? It's going to put it into a very similar box. And our ability to clearly observe and know this thing that we have now put into a box that is similar to another thing that we've observed in the past is now going to cloud our understanding of that which we have just observed. The human mind is an amazing thing. By the way, if some of the wonderful books that I've read over the years to help me better understand the mind, its operation, its its limits, where consciousness comes from. Big fan of David Eagleman and his books, Michael Gazzaniga, his books. So sorry, I forget the author's name, but not Who's in Charge. Oh, so sorry. I should like post a book list of like neuroscience, neurobiology books that I've read in the past that to help me better understand how the human mind works. I'm not a professional, of course. I'm just a layman who's really interested in the neurobiology, neuroscience end of the sciences. And really their relationship to some of these ancient philosophies. So, even though Kapila did not have the instruments that we have these days to observe the mind and its functioning, whether it's Patanjali or Kanada or Kapila or any of the Vedantic authors, they had a very good understanding of how the mind works, considering the limited tools they had. Now, I want to go back to on account of inattention, right? On account of inattention. I'm going to refer to chapter 3 of the Yoga Sutra here. I'm using Swami Satchidananda's translation. All right. It's a wonderful translation, a lot of fun. And really, we're finishing up the very first section of chapter 3, which deals with samyama. And samyama means like the finer tool, the practice of the finer tool. Stay hydrated, people. And this finer tool is the upper 3 limbs of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, which is concentration, dharana, dhyana, which is meditation, and samadhi, absorption, so one that I prefer, a translation that I prefer. Okay, so concentration, meditation, and finally absorption, right? That's samyama. They're the practices. Essentially, you cannot have absorption without meditation. You can have meditation without concentration, right? So they all kind of go together, these upper 3 limbs. And samyama translates as the finer tool sometimes. And as we kind of move through these different categories. Of course, the mind is, it's similar to a muscle in some ways. Another few books about habit are, kind of best describe the mind. This is Charles Duhigg's books. I'm thinking of The Power of Habit, where he describes it a lot like a muscle. And essentially, we're training the mind to become more attentive, right? So remember that one of our obstructions here is inattention, and the practice of yoga, meditation, is going to help us improve our concentration, therefore meditation, and eventually samadhi, absorption. So now, Sutras 3.1 through 3.9 describe samyama, the finer tool of concentration, meditation, and absorption. And I'm going to read from 10 to 13 or 14. We'll see where we go. All right, the flow of nirodha, and then nirodha is like the mind, the kind of concentrated mind, the power of the mind. Parinama, right? Now, becomes steady through habit, right? So this concentrated flow of thought becomes more powerful or steady through habit. So regular practice. Now, 311, when there is a decline in distractedness and appearance of one-pointedness, then comes samadhi Pranayama, that is, again, development in samadhi, this absorptive state. So when there is a decline in distractedness, so again, right, distraction, inattention, right, we're dealing very directly with what Kapila brings up here. And appearance of one-pointedness, right? One-pointedness. Ekagrata, this idea of one-pointedness is so important. We might see it in practices such as candle gazing or gazing on a mandala or something like that. Or if you're a transcendental meditator, you're using your mantra. In 312, then again, when the subsiding past and rising present images are identical, there is one-pointedness, right? Ekagrata parinama. All right, so then again, when the subsiding past and rising present images are identical, there is ekagrata, that is one-pointedness. And this is where we start to, again, associate the present with what was happening in the past. Now, of course, Patanjali is on a slightly different course here. As I mentioned, one thing that we end up doing is categorizing. This was similar to something in the past, and therefore I'm going to try and know it. We have to remember that we cannot know it fully because this is going to be a new and different experience. 313, by this, what has been said in the preceding three sutras, the transformations of the visible characteristics, time factors, and conditions of elements and senses are also described. So through the power of one-pointedness, we have now remember, this section is called the cities, the powers, right? Vibhuti Pada, this section, right? This is the section on powers. So in some of these sutra in chapter 3, they're going to describe some things that you acquire through the practice of yoga. And to put quite simply, here we have the ability to focus more deeply on things, right? And this is like one of the most powerful things that's going to arise through the practice of yoga. And this is why I really love my daughter to practice yoga and meditation more, because the ability to one's focus is so immediately related to, one's potential success in the future, especially with the amount of distractions that we have in our world today, right, through social media and such. And yes, I realize this is a social media outlet, and that is fine. I'm okay with that. But it is also a means of great distraction. And I know because I watch certain channels on YouTube and can easily become consumed by them. Okay. Well, why don't we get to the part that helps us move away from distractions? All right, so let's work on our breath. So let's sit up nice and tall. And if you'd like, close your eyes. Ears and shoulders and hips aligned. The past few weeks I've been keeping it relatively simple, and I'm going to do so today as well. So just 10 deep breaths on my count. Sit up tall with your eyes closed. Do your best again if you, as I've stated in the past, if you have any difficulties keeping up with my rhythm, no problem. Simply just breathe at your own pace. You can rest your hands where you'd like. Ears, shoulders, hips aligned. So sit up tall and be sure you're not leaning back on anything. First inhale. And exhale. Inhale. Exhale. With control, all right, let's inhale for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 6, 5, 4. Sit up tall. 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, exhale. Inhale and exhale. And now loosen control of your breath, but stay focused, right? Concentrate on the rhythm of your breath. So we'll take the next few moments, just develop, deepen your concentration. If you get distracted, just move your mind back to the rhythm of your breath. To an exhale. Deep inhale, shoulders rise. And out through your mouth, exhale. Shoulders roll back and down. I want to thank you so much for hanging out this morning. I really appreciate it. Keep practicing, right? Make it a habit. If you ever have any questions, just let me know. Write it up in the comments section and feel free to reach out. Peace.
No!